can you run a firm while you are also working as a full-time employee? I have here with me today a CPA who is working Bluetooth job, but also building his own firm. And so I'd like to welcome Charles Harris, CPA. So Charles, welcome again.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Why don't we start with, who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a CPA, like you said. I started in public accounting and worked there for a few years on high net worth individuals, their taxes. And then I moved to a startup, just kind of doing everything. There were three accountants when I started, right? So I was doing everything from AR, AP, reconciliations, fixed assets, taxes, you name it. I was involved in, which is really great learning experience. And then I switched to kind of a more mid-sized company about a year ago. It was more for my own confidence boost to make sure that what I was doing was right. And then as soon as I realized, like, oh yeah, I've got this accounting thing down, like it's the same everywhere I go, then I was like, well, why am I doing this for someone else? And so then that's when I started my firm, maybe a little less than 6 months ago.
Right. So you are just 6 months in. On the last job or the current job you are doing in a mid-sized company, is it a company or is it a CPA firm?
Yeah, so it's private, so it's just a company, and it's
Okay.
not a public company. So for CPAs out there, right, a lot of less regulation. It's a pretty 9 to 5 job, which is the only way to do this, right?
Right.
I don't know how some of our friends can do it working at a public CPA firm and starting their own firm. That seems a lot harder to me.
Right. But you do have some work experience in public practice as well when you were doing your CPA.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's not required for a CPA, but I did public for a few years and taxes on high net worth individuals, which plays great role into working for small business owners.
Right. And so you started your own firm because accounting for a lot of CPAs in the industry or companies tend to employ a lot of CPAs, but there are some, if not a majority part, where they want to have their own public practice, and you are one of them. While you are still working in a company, what did you think, or how did you approach building your firm while also holding a job? What gave you confidence that you can do essential two jobs, and owning a practice is also becoming an entrepreneur? And I guess a CPA firm would require more than 9 to 5, right? Constantly it would be in your mind.
Yeah.
Right. So what gave you confidence that you wanted to start your own firm?
Boy, just I don't know. I probably shouldn't have, to be honest. Some of it is, I don't know if you've read The E-Myth.
Right.
It's a famous entrepreneur book, but you get these entrepreneurial, what did he call it? Moments, flashes, I guess, if you will.
Right.
I wish I knew the actual term,
Right.
but that's what I
Oh
went
yeah,
through,
I
right? It was
remember it was, I think, entrepreneurial seizure or something.
yes,
Right.
that's it exactly. And 100% that's what I went through, right? And then by the time I came out of the seizure, it was just too late.
Right.
And so here I am, and then after that, it's realizing like, oh yeah, I can do this. Obviously, it's a lot of work right now. Hopefully, it won't be forever. But yeah, I was just saying, once I had the entrepreneurial seizure, then by the time it was over, it was too late. I already had 2 clients. And then it was a realization of, oh yeah, I can do this, right? So I think a lot of things happened by accident a little bit. Not that it was I tried to get clients, right? I reached out to them and I talked with them. But some of it is, I think, jumping before you realize how much work it's going to be and what's going to happen.
Right. And when you started your own firm, did you first went out and start with the client, or did you first make the decision and registered your firm and then went on and look for clients?
I think I started my firm before my first client.
Okay.
So for me, it was a very conscious decision. I decided like, hey, I'm going to try this, see what happens. I didn't even know if there would be traction. I didn't know how easy or hard it was.
Right.
So I basically made a firm. I said, worst case scenario, I do a few people's taxes. I make back the cost it was to form the LLC. But then, boy, within a month, I just told a dozen people that I was starting this firm, and I had 2 clients, right? And that's, I think, the way CPAs are right now, at least in America. We're so short-staffed that small businesses are like, I haven't heard from my accountant in in 6 months,
Mhm.
I would like to find a new one because I haven't heard from him, right? Like that
Right.
communication is so bad sometimes that I think it's pretty easy to find clients, and I haven't done anything salesy, right? Like accountants are always scared of that term,
Right.
but I just haven't had to do that yet because I shouldn't say it, but it feels like they fall in my lap a little bit so far.
Yeah. But maybe you also have made yourself in the community well known enough that people trust you when you say that you're starting a firm and I'd like to get some clients.
100%, right? Like it was all personal network.
Mhm.
And those people actually trusted me, which is saying a lot, right? Like you can't just
Right.
be someone that's clearly doing bad things, right? You have to
Mhm.
have a aura of trust, right? And it was pretty easy after that, just tapping into personal network.
Right. And so you immediately got two people as your clients, and 6 months in, what is the size of your firm currently? Are you single person, the number of clients you have?
Yeah, so still single and still only those two clients.
Right.
But I've started to reach out and referrals are coming in pretty regularly now. So I think, boy, if I had to predict, I'll have another few clients next month, right? And so
Mhm.
now it's just starting to move a little bit faster. It's that snowball, and
Mhm.
those first two clients probably came 2 or 3 months after I started my firm. And so now it really is just letting people know. The
Right.
more people I let know, the more referrals I get, and
Mhm.
it's been moving in the right direction. So
And
we'll
how
see.
are you approaching letting people know? So, are you still tapping into your personal network and doing that, or are there other strategies that you've been following?
Yeah, so I think that's the big difference between those first two and why it's taken so long to find the third, right? The first two were all my personal network, which happens really quick because they already trust you, they already like you. The third, well, a hypothetical third, right, is probably going to be coming from my local chamber of commerce. For Americans, every city, as long as they're a decent size, has something called the Chamber of Commerce, where local business leaders get together and they talk. So I've been attending meetings there as much as my job will allow, which is not often, but I can usually get there once a week. And so I've gotten several referrals from there that I've
Right.
talked to over the last week or two. And then something else to consider too, right, is accounting is a very personal
Yeah.
job, right? Like they're giving me their social, they're giving me their
Mm.
money, their bank account information, like a lot of stuff. So I think what I'm learning is selling takes a month, right? It takes a little bit longer because they have to trust you. They have to convince themselves that it's worth it. They know they need it, right? So it's not
Mm.
like it's an easy sell, but it still takes a
Right.
little bit of time. So yeah, local chamber of commerce is what I'd recommend for a brand new starting CPA. It's working great. A lot of
Mhm.
people are contacting me through there.
Mm.
And then something else that I'm doing is I'm trying to niche, which is like the magic word in accounting world right now.
Right.
And so I've been reaching out to specific figureheads or influencers in my space and trying to work that way.
Right.
Um, and nothing's come of it yet, but I'm pretty optimistic in that path too. Just the leads I've gotten so far just from going down that path.
Mhm.
And granted, that's working with the influencers, with the figureheads. It's not working with the clients.
Right.
So again, it'll take another month or two probably before I see the results of that.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty optimistic right now.
All right. Uh, Accounting, like you said, is you're giving all your information. Essentially, you are giving keys to your safe because everything is in. And also, I've noticed the difference in accounting as a service and other services. Maybe someone is getting a marketing service or something. It can be a one-time thing. So somebody may think, let me try if it works maybe we could do another, but an accounting is essentially a lifelong relationship in
Yeah.
today's world. The life span of someone sticking to an accounting firm has shortened, but still is longer than all other profession or all other services that people do. So you have to have a certain a trust and a relationship. So essentially an accounting is your friend, right? And you do not make some of your friend so fast.
Yeah.
And you talked about niching. So what niche are you now currently targeting, or are you still thinking about possible niches, swapping around which niche I would like to go into.
I'm a little open if things happen and change, right? To change
Mhm.
my niche.
Right.
But I think from a marketing standpoint, you kind of have
Right.
to go all in, is what I'm
Right.
noticing. Because if I don't have a landing page for them on my website, if I don't have blog posts specifically tailored to them, they're just not going to think that
Right.
I'm actually niched into their niche,
Mhm.
which would be an issue. So right now, I am targeting music schools. I
Right.
was a music major in college
Nice.
before going back to school and getting my CPA.
Right.
I speak their language. A lot of my connections are that way.
Mhm.
Boy, I just believe in the business, which is a big deal, right? Like I
Right.
just realized there are some businesses I just can't support
Mhm.
and get behind,
Right.
which just made me want to focus on something that I love and I care about and I think is important to people. And so that's why I've been moving in that direction.
Mhm.
So we'll see.
Right.
One of my clients is a music school, which also helped kind of be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is maybe a good way to go. And then, yeah, I think the traction's there. Music schools, maybe the profit margins aren't as high as some CPA firms like. Like they want the real estate that is really
Mhm.
huge profits and right, but I'm not looking to become a millionaire.
Yeah.
That's well, I will become a millionaire, but we can talk about that as an accountant a little bit in a different discussion. But I don't need to make millions every year.
Mhm.
My goal is just to make a really nice living, and I think I can do that with music schools. And boy, they need my help, and it's such a
Right.
great industry and cause, right?
Right. So, while you're talking about that, you do not want to go so aggressive that you want to be a millionaire overnight. Though the other jobs or whatever you have done so far, you are already a millionaire, maybe.
Well, no, I'm definitely not a millionaire, but through investments, right? Like I
Right.
think
Hmm.
most accountants can get there in the US pretty easily if they're
Right.
smart with their money, which they
Right.
should be. They're accountants.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So while you're talking about the music school not having too much profit margin and such, and you reminded me of the conversation we had in the group earlier in the month, right, where we also talked about Erika Goody, where she is a single farm owner and has uh, a decent farm that she runs, but and she has made herself well known that she doesn't have a you know she has a waiting list of clients who want to join her, but she doesn't want to have that extra pressure. She just wants to
Hmm.
work 15 hours. So depends on the goal you want to achieve. Do you want to be a millionaire or go into real estate in the United States? Looking around, like when I see people, accountants especially, the real estate is quite an attractive proposition for most of them.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of niched accountants in the real estate world, right? If you typed into
Mhm.
Google real estate accountant,
Right,
you'd have a dozen. But but that is the benefit of selecting a niche too, right? Like
right,
you type in music school accountant, guess how many
mhm,
show up?
right,
Zero.
mhm,
And so that's why I feel like it's a good niche for me
mhm,
because it can be useful. It's needed. Sure, it's not maybe as profitable as some, but it's by running the numbers right, which we do.
right.
It still would be very comfortable life, which is all I'm really looking for.
Right. And niching is all about messaging, what message you want to target or the audience you want to target. But you are not saying that other than the clients from my niche, I'll not be taking clients from other industries. You are just targeting, or because you do not want to spread yourself thin where you have a message and you cannot give this message to 1,000 people, or maybe when you niche you can do the same messaging 1,000 times to one single person. That is the benefit of niching. And so, are you also open to other industries if the clients come in? Will you be your niche is just the schools, the music schools, but you are open to other clients as well?
At the moment, yes. I think long term, I would like to not be.
Right.
um, but at the moment, I'm definitely a generalist through my personal connections and the
Mhm.
local chamber of commerce. I'm just a generalist,
Right.
and that's totally fine. It's just websites, social medias, and then who I'm messaging, who I'm contacting
Right.
is very niched.
Right.
And so we'll see how that goes, right? Because I
Mhm.
think if there's no traction in the niche, and then I have two clients that pop up in the chamber of commerce, that's something totally different, right? Like I can change. I'm not like this is the way, and I'm never changing, right? I'm not that firm yet on it.
Right. Right. Nice. So, and are there other, like you said, you are developing your landing page, your website, and you're working with influencers. What are other marketing strategies that you are currently doing or maybe looking to, explore to get clients?
Yeah, so I've got social medias up and running. We'll see how well that does. I think that's more of a people come back and check on me to make sure I'm a real person type thing than it
Right.
is a marketing tool. But we'll see. Along with that is blog posts, and then I just finished up creating a chart of accounts specifically for music schools that I'm going to publish hopefully in the next week. That will be a free goodie, I guess, if you will. And then I'm hoping to work out more of those as well,
Right.
and hoping that between the free things and the influencer marketing and then social medias that'll kind of start gaining some traction,
Right.
because it will be
Mhm.
once enough people hear about me, it's like, oh, I need an accountant. Oh, well, look at this
Yeah.
person, he focuses on what we do. But we'll see. I'm also trying to get in touch with associations.
Right.
So there's a music teacher association in the US, and so each state has its own subchapter, but they do conferences once a year. They do workshops. So I'm hoping to work my way into that as well. But that's again a long game, right? Like it's going to take more than a few months. So I imagine a niche will be more of like a 5-year thing. If
All
in
right.
5 years all my clients are music schools, I have a wait list of music schools wanting to work with me, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
And hopefully it can help me find clients early on too, but it's more of a long-term thing to me.
So you do have a W-2 job where you currently work at a 9 to 5 job, and you are also working for on your building your CPA form. Help me figure out or help me go through your what does a typical day look like for you? Because 9 to 5 you're in your work, and maybe there's some trouble, and you're trying to build a form of your.
Yeah, so here it's 6 a.m.
Yeah.
My day usually starts a little bit earlier. I start working a little bit earlier.
Right.
Uh, and then usually around 7 o'clock, I work with my children, or I'm with my
Mhm.
children and my wife. We get out the door at 8 o'clock. I get to work at 8:30. I'm then at work till 5. I come home. I'm here home at 5:30. Usually try and spend 5:30 to 8:30 with my kids, and then I'll get back to work probably around 8:30, and then work until about 10 or 11, and then go to sleep and start over again. So that's kind of how it works for me at the moment, which isn't a ton of hours. And the nice part is my clients don't take up much time.
Yeah.
They're pretty small clients, and so really a lot of that time is spent working on blog posts, working on social media, working on things I'm trying to give away to clients, marketing strategies, connecting with people, sending emails.
Right.
So a lot of it right now is administrative. It's not accounting, right?
Right.
I imagine that'll change, but for now it's mostly admin.
Yeah, and looking at your daily schedule, it also looks quite, sustainable, right? You're not going too aggressive with your work hours. For me, it's because I'm in Nepal, and I'm reaching out to people in different jurisdictions. The time is out of whack. I do not know where I might be working or talking to people at 2 in the night, and because currently I'm not too much focused on getting clients, but understanding the market and maybe given messaging. And even if I'm trying to get clients, like you said, I also figured out that we do have to niche. And I'm currently focusing on the Australian market where there is not too much difference in the time zone. And
Yeah.
but taking perspectives from everyone, making relationships, right? And so while we are working for or trying to create clients, we also want to build the relationships that can be lifelong, a professional relationship. So that's what I'm trying to do. And so when I talk to people, I might be talking midnight. Also, I might be talking, or my work starts from 7 in the morning because of the Australian schedule, and mine looks like I do not know what it looks like, but not too sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, I mean that's the key, right? I've
Yeah.
got kids and a
Mhm.
wife, so to me it's really important to make sure that what I'm
Yeah.
doing isn't interfering with that.
Mhm.
And it is a little bit right now.
Right.
but I'm hoping it won't be a long-term thing for sure. And even then, what I'm doing now isn't terrible and it's not crazy. And I think majority of accountants could probably handle it.
Right. Yeah. So I do also have a kid of my own. He's 2.5 years old. I've got a wife.
Awesome.
How many do you have?
I have two, so it's and they're pretty young, so it's really not terrible. They go to bed early, right?
Yeah.
They're putting up with a lot for sure.
Yeah. But what I also tell myself and tell my family and my kids, I do try and spend as much time as possible. And for a lot of the time that I'm talking to people, I'm still at home, maybe a little distracted, but I try to be as much present as possible. We are trying to build something for them, right, where we want to go in a certain period of struggle where you are building something, and then when it is built, you can have other operators that can do the work, and you can now relax a little bit. So
Yeah,
that's
100%.
that's
That's the
what I
goal, right?
yeah.
And uh, and even for me, if I don't get fully out of operations, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'll probably keep working, but if I can, go pick up my kids, go to a music concert or a game or whatever it is, right? That's the goal for me. And public accounting, that is not achievable in
Mm.
America. I mean, it is for half the year, and then half the year it isn't.
Mm.
And then in private, I've noticed I'm kind of at the peak job you can be at without doing the same thing.
Mm.
If I moved up in my company or in another company, they would expect more hours, and then it becomes basically public accounting again,
Yeah.
which is just a shame because we don't have to work that hard. I
Mm.
mean, we need to work hard, right? We're hard
Right.
workers, I think, but like
Yeah.
you don't have to sacrifice your family or your health
Yeah.
for something that honestly doesn't really matter in the long run. It doesn't matter how well or bad your business does. It matters
Yeah.
much more your family and your health.
Mm. Yeah. And sometimes you do have to work extra hours if
Oh,
that
100%.
becomes, yeah, if that becomes your life. That is, I think, not sustainable. And in public accounting, I think recently there was a news where an associate in maybe it was EY or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah,
which firm, but it was in India, right?
yeah. And she took her life because the stress was too much. And
Yeah.
the response from the, let's say, the big four was that we didn't give her extra work that we do not give other of our employees. So that was the justification that was provided.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they don't really care.
Mhm.
At my CPA firm I worked with, it was one of the top 10,
Mm.
and it was hilarious. We had a tornado that passed through Texas
Mm.
and destroyed a few buildings, actually,
Yeah.
like a block or two away from my home.
Mm.
We got a message that night that was like, I hope everyone's okay. See you tomorrow at work. Like that
Yeah.
was it. It wasn't like, oh, do you need to clean up your yard? Do you need help? Like, are you okay? No, it was just, hey, I hope everyone survived. Come back to
Yeah.
work, And obviously I'm
So,
exaggerating that a little bit, but that's what it felt like. It was so funny. And then my wife, on the other hand, who works in a different industry, she had her boss, her ex-boss reach out, and both of them were like, oh, are you okay? They didn't say anything about getting to work the next day. It wasn't focused on the money, right? It was focused on how is she doing? And that's when I realized, like, oh, they just don't care, like, which is
yeah.
fine, but it's just funny to realize.
And so that's why I think private practice or corporate jobs are also a good uh, career choice. And public accounting, I find, is not in terms of money as well. It's not too far off from private practice. So I don't understand why people,
Yeah.
if someone is also going, they know that there are crazy hours. Why do you want to? Why do you prefer going and doing such crazy hours where you could have a good life and maybe take a small haircut in the salary and
Well, yeah, it's a funny thing that happens, right? So, you graduate school and you go straight to
mm,
public accounting, generally speaking. You don't have to.
yeah.
But what happens is they tell you if you
Mm.
stay in public for X amount of years,
Right.
you can leave and get X job, which is partially true.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more of a cap on my job growth
Yeah.
in private because
Mm.
I didn't stay at public for X amount of years. So there is kind of that. That's what they tell people, and that's how they kind of get you. But as soon as you leave to private, you get about a 15% boost in pay. So you
Yeah.
make more in private industry than you do in public, and you work less hours.
Right.
But it's to accountants in America, right? They tell you over and over again, like, if you want to become a controller, if you want to become a CFO, you have to stay in public X amount of years, which is partially true and then partially a lie, and it ropes people in a lot longer than they probably should be.
This, begs the question, or something that just came into my mind is that the U.S. and many countries in the West are facing shortage of accountants. Is it also due to the culture in public practice that the accountants or the newcomers, the millennials do not find it, a good job for them or good profession to go into? Is that one of the reasons?
If you listen to the accounting podcast, which I'd highly recommend, with Blake Oliver, he's always talking about the culture of CPA firms. And I'd agree, it's kind of a boys' club. It's not necessarily what you'd want to be in usually. But again, like, it depends, right? I think the CPA firm I was in, there was a pocket that was really a really good culture, I think. And I got lucky enough to get in that pocket, but the rest of the firm I could see was very much that way. So I think some of it is just luck, who you're around, right? Make sure you do an internship and work with these people before you take a job. Yeah, I think some of it's got to be culture. Some of it, I think, is lower pay. Um, and then it's just not going to school over and over again. You're told software engineering and computer sciences are the way to, like, really make a lot of money these days. And that's kind of turning a little bit right now. Obviously, it's going to affect us too, and there are going to be less accounting jobs needed and things like that. But it'll be interesting to kind of see. I'm a free market person. I think the market will correct itself. We're supposed to lose 75% of accountants in the next 15 years, according to AI CPA. So rates are going to go up, and people aren't going to be happy about that. But that's just what's going to end up happening, right? And then some of it is that the world is just becoming more international too, right? So we can reach out to offshore accountants like yourself and say, hey, we could use some help. And then generally offshore people are willing to take slightly less pay for the same amount of work. So personally, I'm not scared about offshoring because that's a big talking point in America, right? We're scared that, someone's going to take our job. But generally speaking, people still want someone that they can talk to locally. And so we'll see. I'm personally not scared of that. I think,
No,
everyone's just as smart. It's just...
right. The implication of AI, as far as I see, is that it would be not just in accounting, but worldwide in every industry. So what I am actually scared of is a tool where only the top people who can leverage AI would have all this work, all the jobs, and because the menial type of jobs, the low work, this type of people cannot, figure out things quite quickly enough. And so AI, we can think that AI does one person can do now 10 people's job. Now he will not need 10 other people, and those 10 people are not so technologically savvy enough to make themselves useful. So what I feel is that there's risk there in terms of only the benefits of AI. Whatever we try and drum and get excited about AI, the benefits would be only to some of the people, and it would be crushed by AI. I don't know. That's what
I think to a certain extent that might be true. Again, I'm pretty free market or pro free market and free trade, and for the Americans out there, maybe a little libertarian in my thinking. But I really think that if there become less jobs, people will start businesses doing something else. People are innovative and they're creative, and just like a computer got rid of a lot of entry jobs for accounting, AI is going to do the same thing. At least that's my hope, right? And maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe AI will just take over the world and we'll all be subservient to an AI. But I just don't believe that. I think people are smart and intelligent and will figure things out and change and adapt, and it'll be interesting and fun. And it's definitely going to be a crazy 10 years as we kind of adapt this new
Yeah.
software.
And it's quite interesting, and I've been quite, following all the new things that have been happening. Like I said, I want to be in the top percentile where I can leverage the AI. So, like you said, a free market, you have to get ready if there's anything. You have to get ready how to leverage the AI. But I fear for those
Yeah.
down below. So
Yeah.
that's for me personally, AI is very good.
Me too. But yeah, no, it's a real fear.
Mhm.
And we'll see what happens. It's hard to know. It's
Right.
hard to predict.
Right. So let's get back to your, because we have gotten too far off our topic. Let's get back to
Yeah.
your work. So what are your plans for the coming months, and will you be now getting into making your practice as the sole work that you do, or what is your timeline where you want to shift from 9 to 5 to full time form owner?
Yeah. So I started basically May 1st. I am quitting my job January 10th. So I'm
Right.
closing the year end books. I figured that was the nice thing to do.
Yeah.
And then have a local contact here that I'm going to subcontract for. So I'm
Okay.
going to work for him part time during busy season.
Right.
So that'll be January through April.
Hmm.
Um, and it won't be quite full time, but it should compensate me enough. So I'm hoping to get up to 5 clients by the end of the year. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little bit difficult to find another 3. I think I can do it, but it's going to be close. And then I'm hoping to subcontract with him from January, at least through from January to May. It might be
Right.
longer, but that's a different discussion.
Hmm.
And then I'm hoping that during that period of time, it's tax season here in America. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that I can bring in another 5 to 10 clients and
Right.
kind of replace 75% of my income, right? That's the goal
Hmm.
by May 1st.
Right.
So the first year of my business, I'm hoping to scale it up to about 75% of my current W-2 income.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that happens. I think it's pretty achievable. It's going to
Yeah.
be a lot more selling come January. I'm going to have to be a little more aggressive in sales, but
Yeah.
I think that's okay. And I'll have the time and the energy and the bandwidth to do that because I'll get rid of 8 hours of my day going
Yeah.
to something else.
Right. Okay. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is about pricing. How do you approach pricing your clients, and has that been something that you thought about quite a lot?
I thought about pricing a lot.
Yeah.
I've spent many, many nights doing that. So I've kind of gone back and forth. And I think in a perfect world, value pricing makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But to me, the big stopping point for that is when I go to a website, I want to see price.
Yeah.
And when I don't see price, I get annoyed. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not going to reach out to you.
Mm.
Because I'm price conscious, I want to be aware of what I'm getting into. I don't want someone to just be like, well, it's maybe this, like, let's see. So I've settled on a pricing model that I've left room for adjustments if things change, but it's also a pricing model that if rolled out and I got X amount of clients with it, that I'm going to be at least 40 hours, or I can work 40 hours and make a really, really good living.
Yeah.
And then from that point, I mean, maybe long term, I'll switch more to like what Full Send does and do Full Send accounting firm and does an
Yeah.
average. I might do that eventually,
Mm.
but I'm just not at that point yet. I need clients and I need to, for myself too, right? I need to sell effectively. So
Yeah.
I have a price for basically taxes by itself, which is still a year-round monthly fee,
Yeah.
and it includes 2 meetings with me throughout the year, which is how I'm justifying the monthly cost, right? So
Yeah.
you meet with me twice, and then I do your taxes, and so that's $1,500 for a year
Right.
if I'm just doing your taxes, which is a lot more, I think, than the standard just doing taxes, but my goal is to not do just taxes. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm kind of justifying the inflated price.
Yeah.
And then for a company that I'm doing bookkeeping and taxes for, it's going to be $600. If I'm going to put it in a music school term because that's kind of how I'm marketing it. But if it's for like a small music school, you have a physical
Yeah.
location, you're trying to get to a physical location, right? You're just kind of getting started. You maybe have 3 or 4 teachers, you're
Yeah.
probably a small school set. And then if you're a multi-studio, or if you have multiple schools and you own multiple, then I'm upping that to 1,200 a month. So again, we'll see how the pricing
Yeah.
works and who takes me on and who doesn't. And
Yeah.
I'll have to track hours kind of as I go along too, to be like, was this worth it? Was it not?
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I've settled.
Right.
Is it a perfect strategy? No. I
Mhm.
think if we talk to some accounting influencers, they'd probably get mad at me and tell me I'm
Yeah.
losing out on money and things like that. But
Yeah.
for me, it's a calculation for now, and we'll see if it changes later. But that's where I settled.
Yeah. No, I find your strategy is quite good. So you have a essentially at this point a two-tier or two pockets where you put your clients into, and you have two pricing for those pockets.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm offering the same services,
Yeah.
whether they're big or smaller.
Mhm.
And again, we'll see, right? Like you're supposed to offer 3-tiered system with increasing things, and I'd like
Yeah.
to do that eventually. Honestly, just don't know how, right? Like
Yeah.
some of this
Yeah.
is learning and figuring things out as I go.
Yeah, so much of accounting has now I see that accounting running a firm has become a marketing play, right? And being an
Right.
accountant, you look around what's going on and you see things happening, and you don't understand what the half of it. That's been my issue, because I've been following quite a lot of influencers, and you talked about value pricing, and I see some case studies where a person, a CPA might be you know, doing or charging $2,000 for something, some type of cleanup, and after value pricing, they claim that they got $10,000. But one thing that I do not understand is that the client uh, may find value at that moment, but the next time they may see that they are being ripped off because someone else might be giving the same value for a lot less.
Yeah, I think that's why I don't know if you follow Geraldine Carter.
Yeah.
She wrote The 40-Hour Accountant.
Mm.
Her business plan for accounting firms is more of a you take on a client, you reach a goal, and then you
Mm.
get rid of the client, which could be a really interesting business model for certain things.
Yeah.
I'm a little hesitant with that. And she can probably uh, rip me to shreds in my arguments,
Yeah.
but to me, I'd rather have a client for 20 years
Yeah.
and offer a reasonable
Mm.
service, right? And as long as the pay is reasonable, as long as they're paying me a reasonable
Mm.
amount, I don't mind. Like I'd be happy to continue that relationship and keep growing.
Yeah.
I see that there is a point, and maybe it's more of the consulting mindset of like take someone on, grow them, and then let them
Mm.
go. But I'd rather create that recurring revenue, that
Yeah.
business relationship that lasts a long time.
Yeah, and going out and getting clients every month, every day, every year, new clients, that would be quite exhausting, I think. You are always looking for new clients.
Yeah, and part of her thing is creating a wait list, right? And it's creating this like need for people to want to work with you, and
Hmm.
it all might be true,
Yeah.
and it clearly works for some people, right? She
Yeah.
has people that are down to 20 hours to 15 hours and making significantly more than I'm making, and probably will in the next 5 years, right? They're
Yeah.
making more, and so I'm not going to bash her strategy. I think it probably works. I don't know if it's 100% what I'm looking for. And maybe it's me not understanding her business or what she's selling to accountants either, right? So I could be off. So if,
Yeah.
you know, don't judge me too harshly if I'm way off. But
I had a recent talk with someone and about their business and my business, and the difference, and a bit of a competitor as well. And something interesting came out where we talked about our different approaches, and because we are different, there is market for every one of us. If
100%.
someone doesn't like our approach, they can go to a competitor, and vice versa. So I think being different does do good as well. So everyone has their own approach, and if they are making money, as long as they are making money, then
Yeah,
good for them.
100%.
Yeah.
And if an accountant wants to clean up the books, get
Yeah.
this client all ready to go, and then send them over to me for a slightly lower fee
Yeah.
as a recurring client, I'm okay with that too, right? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with either approach, and we have to form our own niche, our own way of doing business, and that's the beauty and the downside of being our own owner
Yeah.
of a business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're always learning, recalibrating, and yeah, learning quite a bit every day. I think after being an entrepreneur, I've figured that. And but there's time where you do get overwhelmed because there are quite a lot of hype on approaches, and in this age of social media, some things get told too often that you might think that that might be a better idea than whatever one might be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn, and
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed sometimes and just say, okay, I need to just work on accounting for today, and that's
Yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so now I think we have covered a lot of ground today, and maybe before we go, I'd like to ask you, you've started your firm, and up till this point, what are the challenges that you have faced so far, and what are the challenges that you foresee that you'll have to face in the coming let's say another 6 months, right? Because it would take a 6 months to have I mean 1 year to have at least a workable type of a form, right? So what are the challenges you
Yeah.
have faced so far, and what do you see the challenges that will be coming your way?
Yeah. So the two big challenges that keep coming up to me is marketing. I
Yeah.
have to find the clients. That's terrifying for accountants, right? We're
Mhm.
bad at it,
Yeah.
generally speaking. And then the second one is time management. Like I said, I have 2 small clients right now, totally
Mhm.
fine. I'm looking to bring on another 2 clients next month that are
Right.
significantly bigger than the clients I'm working on, which means they're going to take up a lot more time. I'm a little scared of my time management, and I'm hoping that I can keep going with my current schedule, but it might start eating into other things. I'm a little nervous about that, but we'll see, right? It's hard to know, and even if it's only October, November, December that I have to do that, like I can manage 3 months of being
Yeah.
a little bit tighter.
So are you specifying a certain communication flow with your clients, or would you be available 24/7 whenever your client require?
So I'm being totally upfront and honest
Yeah.
about working a W-2 job right now,
Yeah.
with anyone I take on. And I tell them, right, like I'm quitting in January, so like this
Yeah.
isn't a long-term issue for you,
Mhm.
but I just want to make sure you're aware because I want to be honest.
Yeah.
So far it hasn't been an issue. I can email at night and I'll respond during the day, and vice versa.
Yeah.
We'll see. And then beyond that, I promise at least communication monthly
Mm.
as kind of like a check-in
Yeah.
with financial results and everything like that for the previous month.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we'll see if it becomes more of an issue, but for now, communication isn't too big of a deal.
Yeah, and I think there's culturally a different approach where in America people are okay if they are replied to the next day. But here in Nepal, when you work with local clients, everything is urgent. Everything is urgent. Whatever the reports you wanted yesterday, right? Everything is urgent, and it would go on for a.
Yeah, luckily, I think part of that is, well, in America, you definitely run into that kind of mindset.
Mhm.
Luckily, the clients I've gotten so far are pretty relaxed.
Yeah.
But I think
Mhm.
setting those boundaries early on for American firms is really important because in America, we're used to slower response times.
Yeah.
But if you set the precedent of responding immediately,
Mhm.
then suddenly that's going to disappear.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think that would be it for today, and I hope to have you back again because we had a
Yeah.
very good conversation today, and sharing experiences, and we talked to too many people that have already created something, and while you are in the journey, and when we are also journey of creating something, it's quite good to it gives you motivation as well as learning what someone else is also doing while they are building their own form. So thank you very much for your
Yeah. I'd
perspective.
love to be back. You've been a pleasure to talk.
Sure. Okay, so for this episode, this would be it. Thank you very much, Charles, and I'll see you again.